Afternoon. Our theme this month is the light of the world. And today's topic is rainbows of understanding. And now you understand why we did the affirmation that we did about rainbows. As we move into the Christmas season this year, I'd like to present to you a variety of ways humanity expresses the light that is created and shared by our source of being, demonstrated around and through each one of us. I'd like to begin by a story that probably doesn't surprise any of you. The boss of a large company needed to call one of his employees at home about an urgent problem with one of the main computers at work. He dialed the employee's home phone number and was greeted with a youngster whispering, "Hello?" Feeling a bit put out at the inconvenience of having to talk to a child, the boss asked rather roughly, "Is your daddy home?" "Yes," whispered this little voice. "Well, then may I talk to him?" To the surprise of the boss, the little voice answered, "No." The man realized that he needed to get through to an adult. So, struggling with his impatience, he said, "Well, is your mommy there?" Once again, the whisper came back, "Yes." "Well, then, may I talk with her?" And once again, the answer, "No." Knowing that it was not likely that this young child had been left home alone, the manager decided that he would just leave a message with the person who should be watching over this child. "Is there anyone else there?" he asked the child. "Yes," the little boy answered, "a policeman." Now the man was concerned that all obviously was not well at his employee's home. "Well, then, may I speak with a policeman?" he asked. "No, he's busy," came the whispered reply. "Busy? Doing what?" "Talking to Mommy and Daddy and the fireman." Well, now the boss is really worried. Before he could speak again, however, he heard what sounded like a helicopter through the speakerphone. So, with significant concern in his voice now, he said to the youngster on the phone, "What is that noise?" "It's a helicopter," came the whispered voice. "What is going on there?" the man said. Now he's clearly alarmed at what appeared to be something really serious. In an awed, whispered voice, the child answered, "The helicopter just landed. A search team." "Oh my goodness," the manager exclaimed. "Why are they there?" Still whispering, the little young voice replied, along with a poorly muffled giggle, "They're looking for me too." So, sometimes things just seem to get out of control, don't they? Out of hand. Sometimes what starts out to be a small understanding or misinterpretation turns out to be a big problem, doesn't it? And sometimes getting back over the chasm that creates it takes a lot, doesn't it? A fireman, a policeman, a helicopter, and a search team. It's pretty easy for others to tell us to just be understanding, just be accepting, just be forgiving. And we think, yeah, you think easy for them to say, but they don't know the real situation. They don't know the whole story. And that's true. Nobody but you can fully know what's going on in you. Because no one can get inside your mind and absorb all that you have experienced. And that experience is what leads up to any particular situation from you out. That's why as we head into the holiday season, which can be stressful in many ways when we let it, I've chosen for today's topic, rainbows of understanding. The traditional definition of a rainbow is sunlight spread out onto its spectrum of colors. A group of arcs of color, all having a common center. Did you know that a rainbow is a continuum of colors, even beyond the colors that the eye can see? Did you know that no two people see exactly the same rainbow? Since a rainbow is a special distribution of colors with reference to a definite point, in this case, the eye of the observer, no two observers see the same rainbow. In fact, each of our own eyes see its own rainbow. Wow. When you stop to think about, if we can't even agree on whose rainbow is the right rainbow, how could we ever agree about things that are about a lot less definitive, like ideas, like money, like politics, like ethnicities, like religion? Well, I believe that the rainbow is a magnificent, remarkable representation of God's creative plan. Visualize this, if you will, for a moment. The sunlight, which represents God, spreads out into its spectrum of colors. The colors represent God's creative expression. That's you and me and all humankind. This group of arcs of all colors represents all of humanity. But it has a common center, which is the one mind, the source of light. The rainbow is a continuum of colors, even beyond the colors that the eye can see, just as knowledge and understanding, not yet obtained by us, still exists for us to experience. No two of us sees exactly the same rainbow, just as each of us views the experiences of life from our own unique perspective. Only that world can appear which we mentally perceive in us. That's true for everybody. It's one of those immutable laws, as Dr. Holmes calls them. But that's not an accident. That's not an anomaly. It's not a mistake. Like individual colors in the rainbow, each of us has our own individuality. Life is not about making us all the same. It's about blending our individualities into a beautiful rainbow. That creates a bridge of understanding. Without the spectrum of colors, a rainbow's not a rainbow. And without our individualities, the human race then would be limited and apathetic and extremely boring. Now, you may not think that would be so if we were all like you. But what if it wasn't you that we were all like? What if it was him or her? Or your nutty aunt? Or the loser who lives next door to you? What then? You see, life has given us many examples of individualized expressions that are also interdependent upon other forms of expression for their enhancement. Certainly, the rainbow is one of those, and I have two other examples for you this morning. The first example is a story that I heard told by one of our religious science ministers a number of years ago at the CSLWH annual conference. She explained that while she was in college, and she was an art major, she had an opportunity to visit the Norton Simon Museum Musician of Art in Pasadena, California. While her classmates were busy looking at famous paintings and sculptures, she found her way to a section of the museum that had a series of rooms in which tapestries were displayed. This particular person had been raised in religious science of mind, and though quite young in years, she had already begun to develop a very spiritual center persona. So as she moved from tapestry to tapestry, some of which were as large as the wall on which they were displayed, she said she was struck by the interconnectedness of the designs and of the use of materials in each of the tapestries. Many of them were hundreds of years old, so much so that guests were instructed not to touch them, as the threads and the fabrics could easily be weakened or broken. And it was in that realization, she said, she really got the message that if any of those threads were broken, an entire tapestry was compromised. Even one broken stitch could cause the entire tapestry to ravel. So, though it's only one stitch, each stitch is extremely, even absolutely necessary that the tapestry remain whole, complete. And it is in its patterns, the very display of colors and blending, that the full picture comes to realization. Like a rainbow, a tapestry can help us to understand the value and the necessity of a massive array of color, shading, size, and texture to make it whole and complete, with each individual stitch as important as every other one. And life has given us countless examples of individualized expression that are also interdependent upon other forms of expression for enhancement. The second example I have to give you is a story told by the Hopi Indians and passed down from generation to generation. This story was told to a friend of mine by a woman named Shomash, who is a member of a Hopi tribe. The story is entitled Mending the Sacred Hoop, and it goes like this. Hear this story in a good way, for it's a good story. And to hear it in a good way is to hear it in a sacred way. For to hear it in a sacred way is to create right action to follow. The messenger of God took the truth, the great truth, the one truth, the whole that governs all things, all life, all beings, the peoples of the earth, and beyond. The messenger of God brought the truth to the earth and gave it to the people there. Because the truth was so great, however, the messenger divided it into 4 portions and gave one portion to each of the 4 groups. The messenger told the 4 groups that there would be a sign, and that when that sign came, they were to move and to create and to grow. Each group was to move in a different direction. One to the north, one to the south, one to the east, one to the west. The messenger instructed each group that they were to be a caretaker of their portion of the truth. The messenger also told them to remember that who they were and to remember who the others were, to remember that they were all sacred beings. And so great a migration began, with each group moving in a different direction. These directions were external and they were internal. Those who went to the east also went toward enlightenment and illumination. Those who went to the south also went toward the great truth and mystery. Those who went to the west also went toward spirituality. And those who went to the north also went toward the intellect. As they moved, they began to separate from each other, and they moved further and further from their place of origin. The greater these separations became, the more each group began to believe that their portion of the truth was the only portion. Though the messenger had given them the whole truth, each group began to believe that they had the only truth. So each group guarded and protected and even defended what they believed to be the only truth. They forgot that they were caretakers, and they began to believe that they were the owners of the truth. They ceased to continue to honor the other portions of the truth, and they ceased to honor the other groups. They began in their defense of their portion of the truth, even to kill for their own truth. They built walls and ceilings, and they cut out the sky. They closed themselves off from limitless nature and from the limitless truth. They did this believing it would protect them and that it would protect their truth. But what happened was that the sacred hoop of all nations was broken. It happened, and the groups entered into a time of chaos. But as we know, chaos always ends in purification. The Hopis say that chaos may end in fire and ashes. But the Hopis also say, in this moment, in the 11th hour, there is a way to mend the sacred hoop. To mend the sacred hoop, they say, each of us must again speak and listen in a sacred manner. In this way, we can call back the truth from the four directions. In this way, we can restore the whole. It's time again to speak the truth, the sacred truth, to listen in a sacred way to the sacred truth of the others. In this way, we step into a new era. It's never too late. Speak with honor. Speak with or listen to the words spoken with honor. Allow yourself to be your true self, to be a sacred being on a sacred planet. It's your sacred trust. This Hopi story, told by Shamash, was passed to me, and now I've passed it to you. The Hopis believe that each person who hears it will pass it on as their part in mending the sacred hoop. So the threads in a tapestry, mending the sacred hoop, rainbows of understanding. It's about wholeness. It's about connection with one another. Because we're all God. We are all a part of God, showing up in human form, human thought, human ideas. It's about recognizing, honoring, and accepting that the very things which make each of us different from all the others are the very things that blend us into wholeness. Life gives us constant examples of individualized expression. But as we've seen this morning, like the rainbow, the tapestry, and the peoples of the world, we are also interdependent. So the real message is that we accept each other in a sacred manner, as we accept our Creator in a sacred manner. The real message is that we understand that though each of us is an individual like no other, we are all still interconnected because we all spring from the same creative, organizing, intelligent force. Like individual colors in the rainbow, each of us has our own individuality. Life is not about making us all the same. It's about blending our individualities into a beautiful rainbow that creates a bridge of understanding. At this time of the year, as we begin the celebration of Christmas and the coming New Year, what better time could there be to mend the sacred hoop and create a rainbow bridge of understanding? And so it is.